The metallic carders of the starship Celestial Dawn hummed with energy as Vin Diesel made his way through the pristine hallways. He was just another maintenance worker, someone who fixed broken panels and recalibrated oxygen systems. Nobody important, nobody worth remembering. That's what he told himself every morning when he looked in the mirror, seeing a face he didn't fully recognize. 3 years ago, Vin had woken up in a medical pod on a remote mining colony with no memory of who he was or where he'd come from. The doctors said it was trauma-induced amnesia, possibly from a shuttle crash. They'd given him a new identity, new papers, and sent him on his way. Since then, he'd drifted from station to station, ship to ship, searching for something he couldn't name or today. That search had brought him aboard the Celestial Dawn, flagship of the Andromedan Royal Fleet. Maintenance to Deck 7. A voice crackled through his calm device. Royal quarters need environmental system check. Vin sighed, grabbing his toolkit. Royal quarters meant nobility, and nobility meant trouble. The upper class never looked at people like him, they looked through them, as if maintenance workers were just another part of the ship's machinery. The doors to Deck 7 slid open with a soft hiss, revealing corridors lined with elegant tapestries and bioluminescent plants from a dozen different worlds. Vin followed the corridor markers until he reached the princess's quarters, where the guards in ceremonial armor stood watch. Maintenance, Vin said simply. Holding up his identification, the guards scanned it and stepped aside, allowing the doors to open. The royal suite was breathtaking, all crystal chandeliers and floating holographic art. But Vin barely noticed. His attention was immediately drawn to the woman standing by the viewport, her silhouette framed against the stars. Princess Lisa of Andromeda 7, even from across the room. She was striking. Her silver hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall of moonlight, and she wore a gown that seemed to shift colors with every movement. But there was something in her posture, a heaviness, a grief that even royalty couldn't hide. The environmental controls are behind that panel, she said without turning around, her voice soft and distant. Yes, Your Highness, Vin replied. Setting down his toolkit, he worked in silence, running diagnostics and checking the atmospheric processors. The system was functioning perfectly. This was probably just a routine check, ordered by some paranoid protocol officer. Still, he went through each step carefully, professionally. That's when it happened. Princess Lisa turned away from the viewport and walked past him, heading toward her private chambers. As she passed, barely 3 feet away, she suddenly stopped mid-step. Her entire body went rigid. Vin looked up, concerned. Your Highness, are you all right? Lisa's head turned slowly toward him, her silver eyes wide with shock. She took a step closer, then another, until she was standing directly in front of him. Then, to Vin's absolute bewilderment, she leaned forward and inhaled deeply near his collar. Your Highness, Vin began, taking a step back. The scent, Lisa whispered, her voice trembling. Her hand reached out, fingers hovering inches from his chest. This is my former husband's scent. The words hit Vin like a physical blow. I think there's been a mistake. No mistake, Lisa said firmly, her eyes searching his face with desperate intensity. Vin, your name is Vin, Vin Matthias Diesel. You were the crown prince consort of Andromeda 7. Vin's toolkit clattered to the floor. That's impossible. I'm just a maintenance worker. You've been missing for 3 years, Lisa interrupted, tears beginning to stream down her face. 3 years since your shuttle was attacked by pirates near the Nebula frontier. They said you were dead. They said there was no body because the ship had been completely destroyed. But I never believed them. I never stopped searching. Vin's mind reeled. Images flashed through his consciousness, fragments of memories he'd dismissed as dreams. A wedding ceremony under twin moons. Lisa's laugh echoing through palace gardens. A child's voice calling out, Papa, I have a daughter, Vin said slowly, the words coming from somewhere deep and buried. Arya. Lisa confirmed, her voice breaking. She's for now. She asks about you every day. She still sleeps with your old flight jacket. Vin stumbled backward, colliding with the environmental panel. His hands shook as he stared at them, hands that had fixed countless broken systems, but couldn't remember holding his own child. Why can't I remember? He asked, his voice raw with anguish. Lisa moved closer, more cautious now. The doctors believe it was the neural shock from the attack. Your ship's AI sent a distress signal before it went dark, but by the time our rescue teams arrived, there was nothing left. They must have taken you, wiped your memory, and dumped you somewhere they thought you'd never be found. But the scent, Vin said, looking down at his standard issue maintenance uniform. How could you recognize me from a scent? A sad smile crossed Lisa's face. You always wore Arcturus bergamot oil. You said it reminded you of your mother's garden on Earth. Even after everything, even with your memory gone, some part of you must have continued the habit. Vin reached into his pocket and pulled out a small vial, something he'd been carrying for as long as he could remember, applying it every morning without knowing why. The label was worn, but he could still make out the words Arcturus bergamot. The vial slipped from his fingers as a flood of memories crashed through the barriers in his mind. Lisa caught it reflexively, then caught him as his knees buckled. I remember, Vin gasped. Lisa, Arya, the attack. I remember trying to send the distress signal. I remember thinking I'd never see you again. They sank to the floor together, Lisa cradling his head against her shoulder as he wept for lost time, for a daughter who'd grown up without him, for 3 years stolen by faceless enemies. You're home now, Lisa whispered, her own tears falling into his hair. You're finally home, outside the viewport. Stars streamed past as the celestial dawn continued its journey through the cosmos. But inside the royal quarters, time seemed to stop as two people who'd been torn apart by fate found each other again, guided back together by something as simple and profound as a familiar scent. Vin looked up at his wife's face, truly seeing her for the first time in 3 years. Take me to Arya, he said. I want to meet our daughter. Lisa smiled through her tears. She's going to be so happy. She never stopped believing you'd come back. Neither did you, Vin said softly. No, Lisa agreed, helping him to his feet. I knew. Somehow, I always knew.